My electric bill last month was $31.40. My neighbor across the street pays $210 in the same month in a house the same size, built the same year, on the same grid, with the same power company sending the same bill to both our mailboxes. The difference between her number and mine is not solar panels. It is not a new furnace. It is one habit I have done every single night before bed since the winter of 1978, and it takes me about 11 minutes, $800 a year. That is what that 11-minute walk has saved me year after year for almost 50 years. And the power company has never once written me a letter to say thank you. Here is the part that ought to bother you. The reason you do not already know this is not because it does not work. It is because there is no money in teaching you to stop buying something. Your electric company does not mail you a friendly note in October saying, "Hey, before you turn that thermostat up, try walking through your house first." The people who sell you electricity do not profit when you use less of it. That is not a conspiracy. That is just arithmetic, and it has been running quietly against you your whole life. So tonight I am going to walk you through exactly what I do before bed, every step of it, including the one thing sitting in my garage that was costing me more than my kitchen refrigerator, and I did not find it for 11 years. If you still trust the old ways over the bright labels, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, because this is the kind of thing they would rather stay forgotten. Most people believe their electric bill is made of the big things: the furnace, the air conditioner, the water heater, the dryer. And yes, those are real, and we will get to them, but the big things only run when you ask them to. They turn on, they do their job, and they shut off. The money that actually leaves your house leaves it while you are asleep. There is a name for it in the industry, and they do not use that name in the commercials. They call it phantom load. Some call it vampire draw. It is the electricity your house pulls when nothing in it is doing anything at all. The television that is off but still watching for the remote, the coffee maker holding a clock that nobody has read in 15 years, the phone charger plugged into the wall with no phone on the end of it, sitting there warm, pulling current straight into empty air. The cable box, which never truly turns off, not once, not ever, in the entire time you own it. Put your hand on the back of a cable box at 2 in the morning. It is warm. That warmth is your money turning into heat for no reason at all. Here's the mechanism, and it is worth understanding, because once you understand it, you cannot unsee it. Every one of those devices has a little transformer inside it, and that transformer is always on. It has to be, or the remote would not work, or the clock would go dark, or the machine would take 4 seconds to wake up instead of 1. So the manufacturer leaves it running. They are not selling you a device that turns off. They are selling you a device that pretends to turn off. And the pretending costs you money every hour of every night for the entire life of the product. Studies out of the national labs have put phantom load somewhere between 5 and 10% of the average household's electricity. In some houses, it runs well past that. In mine, before I started, it was closer to a quarter of the bill, and I would have sworn on a Bible that I was a careful woman. My mother did not use the word phantom. She said, "The house is still drinking." She grew up in a farmhouse where the electric came in on a single wire, and you could hear the meter working through the plaster if the room was quiet enough, And she understood something no salesman has ever told me since. A house left alone will spend your money all night long unless somebody walks through it and tells it to stop. That one idea is the whole thing. Everything I am about to show you comes out of it. The habit has a name in my house. I call it the last walk. It happens after the dishes, after the news, after everything has gone quiet, and it goes room by room in the same order every single night, because a route you have to think about is a route you will eventually stop doing. I start in the kitchen because that is where the worst of it hides. The coffee maker comes unplugged, not turned off, unplugged. A machine with a digital clock on the front of it is pulling current every hour of every day so that it can show you a time that your stove, your microwave, your telephone, and the wall itself are already showing you. 4 clocks in one room, and you paid for every one of them. The microwave I leave alone because most of them are wired into the wall, and I am not going to tell you to fight your own kitchen. But the toaster, the electric kettle, the blender, the can opener, the little countertop things that sit there humming with a light on the front, those come out of the wall. It takes about 40 seconds. Then I put my hand on the back of the refrigerator, low, near the coils. If that grill is furred over with dust, the motor is running longer than it needs to just to keep the same milk cold. 10 minutes with a stiff brush twice a year, and that machine runs quieter and cheaper for the rest of its life. That is not part of the nightly walk, but it is the reason the nightly walk through the kitchen pays. Now here's the one that took me 11 years to find, and I want you to go look at yours tonight. The second refrigerator. The old one out in the garage, the one holding 6 cans of pop and a bag of ice from a barbecue 2 summers ago. That machine was built before 1990. The door seal is cracked and stiff. It sits in an unheated garage where it fights the outdoor temperature all day long in the summer, and it is drawing more electricity than everything else on this entire list put together. A refrigerator from that era can eat well over $150 a year, all by itself, and it is keeping 6 cans of pop cold. I unplugged mine in 1989. The bill dropped so much the following month that I called the power company to ask whether they had made a mistake. The woman on the telephone was very polite and told me there was no mistake. If you take nothing else from tonight, go look in your garage. From the kitchen, I go into the living room, and this is where the modern house does most of its quiet spending. Everything with a little red standby light on the front is telling you in plain sight that it is still awake. The television, the sound bar, the game console, which is the worst offender in the room, because a console left in rest mode is running a small computer all night long, waiting for an update that is not coming, the streaming stick, the cable box, the printer that somebody dragged in here and never dragged back out. I do not go around that room pulling 6 separate plugs because I am a realistic woman and I know perfectly well I would quit inside of a month. What I do instead is the single best $5 I have ever spent on this house. Everything on that wall goes into one power strip. The lamp I actually read by stays on its own outlet because a good routine should never leave you sitting in the dark. Then, on my way past, on the last walk, I hit one switch. One. The whole wall goes dark at once and it stays dark until morning. That is the entire trick. It is not discipline. It is a switch. My mother-in-law used to say that a habit you have to remember is a habit you are going to lose. So you build the remembering into the furniture, and then you stop having to be a good person about it. Then the office, or the spare room, or whatever your house calls the room where the paperwork lives. The printer goes on a strip. Nobody prints anything at 11 at night. And a printer left plugged in spends its entire life warming itself and listening for a job that never comes. The desktop computer goes all the way off, not to sleep, because sleep is a machine with its eyes closed and its wallet still open. The modem and the router I leave running, and I want to be honest with you about why. They pull very little. They take 4 full minutes to come back up. And if somebody in your house needs the internet at 6 in the morning, you will abandon this entire routine inside of a week just to avoid the argument. Pick the fights you can actually win. That is not laziness. That is the difference between a habit that survives 50 years and a habit that survives 9 days. The phone chargers come out of the wall, every one of them. A charger with nothing attached to it is a small, warm thing pulling current into nothing at all. And there are probably 5 of them scattered around your house right now, and at least one of them you have forgotten exists. Then the laundry room, and this one is quick. The washer with the digital panel, the dryer with the little display, the iron that somebody left standing up on the board, and the deep freezer which does not get unplugged ever but does get looked at, because a freezer door that did not quite catch will run that compressor all night and turn your food soft by Thursday. 3 seconds. Push the door. Move on. Upstairs, the walk changes character entirely, because upstairs is not about phantom load. Upstairs is about heat. I turn the thermostat down before bed, not off, down. And I want to be careful here because there is a thing people repeat at kitchen tables that is simply not true, which is that it costs more to reheat the house in the morning than you saved overnight. It does not. A cold house loses heat to the outdoors more slowly than a warm house does, because heat only moves in one direction and it moves faster the bigger the gap. That is not an opinion. That is just how heat behaves. Every degree you let your house drop while you are unconscious under a blanket is a degree the furnace never has to pay for in the first place. 7 or 8 degrees down from the time you go to bed until the time you get up will take somewhere around 10% off a heating bill across a year. You are asleep. You will not feel a thing. You have a blanket. That is what the blanket has always been for. Then the water heater, and this is the one that nobody ever checks. Go and look at the dial on the side of the tank. Most of them leave the factory set at 140 degrees. That is hot enough to scald a child in about 5 seconds, and it is hot enough to keep that burner cycling all night long to hold 40 gallons of water at a temperature no human being can stand to touch. Bring it down to 120. You still get a hot shower. The tank spends the night doing far less work, and every single degree you take off that dial is money that stays inside the house instead of going up the flue. That one is not a nightly thing. That is a one-time turn of a dial that quietly pays you every night for the rest of the time you live in that house. Then the lights, and I am not going to insult you by explaining lights, but I will say the thing my mother said, which was that a light burning in an empty room is the loudest thing in the house. And she meant it, and then the last thing on the last walk, and it is the one I care about most. I stop and I look at the meter reading or the number on the app, or in the old days, the little disc spinning behind the glass on the side of the house, and I write the number down, a little spiral notebook. That is all it is, the date and the number. I want to tell you why, because this sounds like the smallest thing on the entire list, and it is actually the largest. You cannot save money on something you do not measure. The power company sends you one number 30 days late at the exact moment when it is far too late to do anything about it. That is not an accident either. But if you write that number down every night, then inside of 2 weeks you will find your house. You will see the Tuesday the number jumped, and you will remember the space heater somebody left running in the back bedroom. You will see the week it climbed and stayed climbed, and you will go out and find the freezer in the garage with a door that had been standing open a quarter of an inch since Sunday afternoon. That notebook is the only reason I knew my old chest freezer had started to fail in the spring of 2004. The number told me before the food did. Every trick I have given you tonight is something that somebody somewhere would happily sell you a gadget for. The notebook is the one thing nobody can sell you, and it is the one that has found me the most money. Now, the honest part, because I would rather you trust me than be impressed by me. This does not work the same in every house, and I am not going to pretend that it does. If you rent and you cannot get behind the television and the water heater is not yours to touch, you are going to get a smaller number than I did, not nothing. The power strip is still yours. The chargers are still yours. The thermostat is usually still yours, but be honest with yourself about the size of the prize before you start. If somebody in your home relies on a medical device, a machine that helps them breathe or sleep or monitors something through the night, that device does not go on a power strip. It does not get unplugged, not ever, not for any amount of money on any bill. And if you have any doubt at all, you ask the doctor and not the woman on the internet. Health comes first, always. If your house is heated with electricity, the thermostat is going to be the biggest number on this list by a wide margin, and the phantom load is going to be a smaller share of the whole. If you heat with gas, it flips the other way around. Go and look at your own bill and find out which house you are actually living in before you decide what matters most. And if you have already changed every bulb, and you already switched the strip off, and your bill is already down around $50 a month, then $800 a year is not sitting there waiting for you. I am not going to pretend otherwise, just to keep you watching. But here is what I have found in almost 50 years of doing this. Almost nobody is where they think they are. Everybody believes they are careful. I believed I was careful. And then I found a refrigerator in my own garage cooling 6 cans of pop for $150 a year. If you have made it this far with me, hit that like button. It helps more than anybody realizes. Here is what I want you to do tonight. Not next week. Tonight. Walk through your house at 11 o'clock with all the lights off and look for the little red and green and blue lights glowing in the dark. Count them. Just count them. Most people find somewhere between 15 and 40, and every single one of them is a small hole in the bottom of the bucket. Then pick one room, the living room. Get one power strip, put that whole wall on it, and hit the switch on your way to bed. One switch, one room, one night. That is the entire ask. Then go and look in your garage, then write the meter number down in a notebook, and write it again tomorrow night, and again the night after that. And by the end of the week, your own house will begin telling you things about itself that no bill has ever told you. Give it 30 days. Then open the envelope and look at the number. The furnace in this house is 11 years old, and the freezer down in the basement is older than that, and neither one of them has ever cost me a nickel I did not agree to, because every night before bed, Somebody walks through and tells the house to stop drinking. That is not a gadget. That is not a subscription. That is 11 minutes and a pair of slippers. Everybody used to know this. Every generation before ours walked the house at night. They checked the stove, they checked the lamp, they checked the latch on the door, and they went to bed knowing exactly what was running and what was not. Then somebody figured out it was far more profitable to sell you a house that never sleeps. And inside of one single generation, we simply forgot. It did not stop working. It did not get disproven. It just stopped being profitable for anybody except you. So walk your house tonight. And if this saved you money, or if it reminded you of somebody in your own family who used to do exactly this, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so the next one finds you. I will see you next time.